Hi, I'm Dan Danford, and this is another episode of Money Made Easy for dadsdivorce.com. One of my favorite questions from the website today. Growing up, I had to learn the hard way how to handle my finances. Having experienced those hardships, I want to help my children avoid as many painful lessons as possible. How would you suggest attempting to teach your children financial responsibility? Wow, that is every parent's dream, I believe. Among my many things that I've done in my life, probably the proudest that I have is that I have 3 grown daughters and they're all financially independent. And part of that maybe is because we were intentional. Hopefully part of it's because of lessons that we taught them. Part of it's just because they're good, responsible citizens, and nothing gives me more pride than that. A couple of things that I can suggest. One is that I think you need to start young. One of the things that happens is people are bombarded with messages all day long, every day. When your children come home after school or when they watch Saturday morning television, they're getting messages, and many of those messages are financial. And many of those messages aren't the messages that you and I would choose for our children. So I think it's really important that we start offering the value-based messages, the messages that we think are important from the time they're small. Because if we don't offer those, they'll pick up the messages that they hear from other sources, and those sources aren't necessarily what we want. So I think, good lessons about saving, I think that's good. I like the allowance idea. It can teach kids to be responsible. I think one of the things that you need to teach them is that, for every allowance that they get, that they save some for big things and that they spend some for enjoyment things. And so they can kind of see the pattern that, saving is important and that delayed gratification is important. And so I think you kind of have to, help them with that. I also think that you have to allow them to make mistakes. So if you give them an allowance, and if they save some of the money, and if they go out to spend money that they have on something you don't like, sometimes you just have to let them do that so that they can learn that that's a bad choice. It's a hard thing to do, admittedly, but it's something that needs to be done. The other thing that I think is really important, and we don't like this so much as parents, but it's absolutely true. And that's that we lead by example. If you think your kids aren't watching you all the time, you're wrong. They are. And they will learn by seeing what we do. So if we're responsible with our money, even in things they don't necessarily understand, they don't understand house payments or car payments or things like that. But still, they will understand if there are problems with those things. If creditors are calling all the time, day and night, or if mom and dad are always tense over financial issues, kids sense that. They may not understand the details, but they do sense it, and it sends them some kind of lesson about money, and it's not a very good one. So that lead by example is really important. Be responsible in your own life and take care of money and set money aside and do the things that you should, and the kids will learn by that as well. Now the last thing I'm going to mention is sort of a issue that's hard to understand, but I've seen it in research that I've done and I've seen it in things that I've been reading. And that's that no matter how hard we try, some lessons have to be learned by ourselves. And you all know that that's the case, just like I do, because oftentimes we'll see our kids, not necessarily in financial matters, but in any matter, where they're getting ready to do something that we know probably isn't the right thing to do. And yet, we try with our experience to explain to them why it isn't the right thing to do, and they don't get it. They have to go out and make that mistake on their own, and then they'll get it. It's a very frustrating thing for parents, but it's absolutely true. One of the reasons why, it's kind of interesting, across the nation today, we see many states passing laws requiring personal finance classes in high school or in college as part of the curriculum for graduation. Now, on the face, that sounds like a very, very good thing. Some of the research, though, isn't very positive about it. Some of the research shows that the people who take those classes are no better off than the people who don't take those classes. And in some cases, they're worse off than the people who took those classes. And it's a hard thing to reconcile. I mean, you sit and you think, well, if you teach it to them, why don't they know it? And I think the core issue is this last issue. It's that it really doesn't matter to teach people about mortgages and house payments until they're ready to buy a house. Okay? The same with savings and investments. You can try telling a high school sophomore about savings and investments, but until they have money to invest, the lesson isn't very powerful and it isn't very strong. And I know I learned that way back in college. I have a business degree and ultimately had a master's degree in business. And it was kind of funny. I went to work in the trust department of a bank after I had a master's degree, and I spent 4 or 5 years there before I really started paying attention to investing. And you know why? It's because until I was at that point in my life, I didn't have money to invest. Okay? I learned those lessons. I learned those lessons that I turned into a career by investing my own money. As I learned those lessons, then I saw how they applied to other folks, and I was able to help other folks with their money as well. The same thing goes back to our children. You know, even many years from now, you know, we can tell them the right thing to do, but until they have money in their hand to go do those things, they probably aren't going to learn the lessons as powerfully as we'd like. So I do think it's really important that you lead by example, that your kids see that you're responsible and that you know the right things to do with money, and that money is a comfortable, not a hostile topic. I also think it's important that you teach them from the very youngest ages about how to spend money wisely and how to save money. But sadly, I also think that some of those lessons really don't take until kids reach adulthood on their own anyway. So that's my best summation of this particular topic. I think it's a very important topic, and I encourage anyone to have that has children to spend time thoughtfully thinking about these ideas and how you can put those ideas to the kids so that they have a good foundation as they grow up and as they become independent adults themselves. That's it for another episode of Money Made Easy. I'm Dan Danford for dadsdivorce.com. Thanks.